As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Penny Dye.
Here.
Rima Sherry.
Here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
Brooke Moore.
Here.
Great. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ali Mitchell.
Here.
Ken Bogran.
Here.
Vicky Marsh.
Here.
And Tucker Holland.
Here.
And anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. I think we have Laura Sober as an anticipated speaker. We got a wave, so that's good. She can hear me.
Here. Hello.
Great, thank you. Billy, I'm assuming you can hear us.
I can.
Great, thank you. This is, good morning. This is open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless we note otherwise. We will turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll go down a line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or your computer when not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any responses, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote will be taken through roll call. With that, we'll move to the first item on the agenda, which is an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Motion from Penny and a second from Rima by roll call. Penny Dye.
Aye.
Rima Sherry.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Billy Cassidy. Not Billy Cassidy. Brooke Moore.
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. All right. Item number 3, we have approval of minutes. So we've got 3 different meetings on there, the 2nd, the 5th, and the 16th. Does anybody want to take up any of those minutes?
I think there was one
Okay.
of them I wasn't there for.
Okay. Was it noted? Do you know which one, Dave?
I don't. Have to go back and look.
I can look quickly.
Could you? I'm sorry. I just don't want to vote to, I mean, can I vote to approve one when I wasn't even there?
So we'll take them individually. Ali, if you can check which one Dave wasn't there for, we'll work our way through.
Dave, you missed the second.
Second,
So
yeah.
everything else, you should be good.
So look for a motion to approve the minutes for November 2nd.
So moved.
Okay, second.
So I have a motion by Rima and a second by Penny by roll call. Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan is an aye. We'll have Dave recused on that vote. I think we can lump the other 2 together. So look for a motion to approve the minutes of November 5th and November
So moved.
16th. So moved
So
by
moved.
Brooke. Second by Dave, by roll call, Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, public comment for items not otherwise on the agenda. We have a couple of members of the general public. Does anybody want to make comment or have comment today? Seeing no motion or activity, I'll close public comment. Item number 5, we have discussion of planning board proposed housing related articles. So the first one on the list, expansion of workforce housing to R10 and R20. Is this coming out of the planning board review the other day, Tucker? Is there, how do you want to direct this conversation? Do you want to throw it to Dave? Do you want to throw it to Rima's from?
I will throw anything anywhere today.
So if I may, Brian, I'll step in.
Please, Dave.
So, we had a long talk about it, and I think what became apparent was this might really have limited applicability. In other words, there's minimum lot sizes for where it exists now, and I want to say, was that 16,000 square feet? Is that right? Do you remember, Tucker?
You needed 60,000 to take
60,000.
advantage.
I'm sorry. So the question is that number going to grow as the zoning districts, as the minimum lot size in those zoning districts grow? And if that's the case, how many lots really are there out there that people are going to be able to take advantage of? So that the staff at planning is looking at that, and we're going to readdress it the next round. Did I sum that up properly, Tucker?
I guess my big question on that, Dave, too, is in that summary is the kicker enough motivation when you have that much land in those districts to motivate somebody?
Well, right. Is it enough motivation, and financially, is it viable?
Daddy,
Right.
Mr. Williams?
Right.
Is it viable if your bonuses lots have to be, fit into affordable housing? So I think that this is a good discussion, but I don't think we're there yet.
And yeah, and your point about it may be better. It may root out a better district in the future. The discussion.
Yeah, I think that they need to look at each of these zoning districts. How many big lots are there left? And is this an exercise in futility, or are there really enough opportunities out there where this is worth moving forward with? If that makes sense.
Any other questions for Dave on this with the planning board's discussion the other night? Seeing none. Expansion of tertiary dwelling gross floor area.
All right, I could take
If
that one.
you wouldn't
too.
mind, Dave.
Yeah. So that was kind of a better, more long-winded, and basically what the direction kind of we came up against a brick wall with the tertiary standards, just because there was a fear that people would take advantage of the extra square footage to build a bigger tertiary that they just use in the summer for themselves. So I think what we all decided was that there would be bonus square footage available if that either accessory dwelling or that standalone tertiary was deed restricted to either year-round housing or affordable housing.
And how do you do that? Through a special permit process, or?
I think so.
So does that become a change in the zoning code, or is that just a?
That again, I could have to get back to you on that, but yeah, I think, no, I don't know that it would be It would be a change, right, in the zoning code, because now we're offering you through special permit an expanded size, but to get that, you need to deed restrict your property.
Yep.
So I think that's a tough one. Not the same issue with it as an accessory. So in other words, if you,
Can I,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Brooke.
I see your hands. Hang on one second.
yeah, sorry, I'm trying to do that while driving. It's not a good look.
I can stop for a minute if you have questions or issues, Brooke.
Okay, Brooke, what do you
No,
got?
I was just gonna comment that aren't all tertiaries done by special permit anyway.
Not if you can have it by right in your zoning district.
Okay,
So yeah, if you can have it by right in your zoning district, it's not a special permit. And I think it's available in a lot of zoning districts. Means maybe not some of the smaller ones. I'd have to go look at the use chart and I don't have it right in front. So
Rima?
Yeah, I think putting deed restrictions on them goes along with our initial thought that they, we wanted to make them a little bit bigger, but they could get, seriously bigger if there was a deed restriction on them. So I think that's a good direction, and let's see what the attorneys can come up with as far as language.
Yep. I mean, we're gonna have to get a nod at this point, a nod from the select board, I think, on any of these ATMs. But no, so I think it's good. I think if we give it to them as an accessory, just give them straight up I forget how we said it, but I think it was 800 in an accessory. So in other words, in a tertiary that's inside your house as an apartment, that I think that's a no brainer, and that should be just, I think that should not have deed restrictions. But I think when it's a standalone tertiary, that I think that to get where we want, it's going to have to be bonus footage, with a deed restriction, because people will take advantage of it.
Any more for Dave on tertiaries? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 2 covenant lots on a single, out of a single.
This one, I mean, I think it's worth everyone watching our meeting last week. Just this one kind of made my head spin. I don't think it was clear cut. A lot of ideas were getting batted about, and some of them had to do with affording people more ground coverage if they did too. So, which I don't think anyone on the board would be, except for maybe Nat, would be for. So I think that this one needs to get boiled down a lot. And I think that it's premature, probably. I think this is probably the most complex one of the 3.
Was there a willingness to hear the concept and kind of worth exploring?
100%. It wasn't shut down, but it just wasn't clear cut in, I think, any member's mind or staff's mind how this would really work.
Yeah, it's not an uncomplicated conversation.
No, it is a very complicated conversation. So we haven't given up on it, and I think we're going to have further discussions on it. But I think that this one definitely is going to take a little more work than the other 2.
hey, Brian.
Yes, Brooke.
So 2 thoughts I have on it are, its first iteration could be just allowing a second covenant subdivision on properties where it makes sense to do so, and not have any bonus on square footage, and then see whether that is a prohibitive, problem, and then amend later. And then the other thing that I think we need to think about is with the progress on the community land trust, it's maybe worth waiting 1 more year, because if the CLT is in place, that we may want to amend that whole bylaw to include both covenant and community land trust housing within that allowable subdivision provision. So,
Well, Brooke, real quick, let's leave the word subdivision out of this.
sorry.
Please.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just call it a covenant lot creation, because
Okay.
as soon as you say that word subdivision, it gets people's hair on the back of their necks up, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. Yep.
So I
Thanks
think
for the correction.
no, it's not. I mean, it's just, I see it that it's you're subdividing your land. A lot of people don't, but I think it's a hot topic word that we need to stay away from.
100 lots later and we're still having that conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
Okay. All right, moving on to, if there's no more conversation on that, we'll close that one out and move to item number 6, transfer fee strategy funding update. We see that we have Laura here and Tucker here. Tucker, I will open to you, Laura, and Penny is raising her hand. Let's start with Penny as a board member.
Oh, just quickly, I wanted to say that NAREB met yesterday and we have to do our votes electronically because we've been having quorum issues and we're still tabulating votes, but we'll have an answer by earliest late today or tomorrow morning in terms of
Great.
sponsorship and affiliation with the coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. And with that, I'll turn to Tucker and Laura.
I'll let Laura go first.
Oh, you're gonna let me go first? Okay.
He's got a cold. He needs to reduce his.
Oh, this is okay. So we're meeting with the Transfer Fee for Affordable Housing Coalition on Friday. The CCMVHB on the Vineyard is ready to execute the contract for the lobbying side. Tucker and I did want to meet with the steering committee for the TFA coalition before we actually sign the paperwork. So that meeting's scheduled for 1:30 on Friday. CCMVHB expects to be able to sign that afternoon. It is now December. There is according to Rule 10 in the legislature, the first Wednesday in February is the deadline for bills to be reported out of their first round of committees. So we're really in crunch time. So I know there's a process the trust needs to go through to approve funding, but the sooner that second $35,000 can be identified and deposited into the community foundation on Nantucket so that Nantucket can sign their side of the contract for the 7-letter proposal, the sooner we can get going on this at state level. Tucker, I don't know if you've shared with them about the hospital system or if you want me to do that, but we understand it's not they haven't made an announcement yet, but we understand that Mass General Brigham is readying to make an announcement that they will be co-sponsoring this legislation and joining the Transfer Fee Coalition. That's an enormous move. They're doing this largely in support of the 2 island hospitals, but their support will trigger the support of the other Boston hospitals and likely many of the hospital networks across the state. So that moves this issue much more firmly into the public health conversation. But what it's also going to do is spur the Massachusetts Association of Realtors to gear up their attacks on this. So the sooner we can get the lobbying and communications in place, the more readily we're going to be able to get out in front of that and respond appropriately. So I would encourage you to do whatever you can to move this forward on the community foundation end. If you need a second vote in order to have an alternate, if the community foundation money, I know they can't sign until they have $35,000 in that land trust account. That's my understanding anyway, and Tucker, you can clarify that. If a second vote needs to be taken at this meeting to have an alternate backup plan, so that if it takes 3 or 4 weeks to get money into that account, something else can be done so that communications contract can be executed. CCMVHB would be willing to work with the Housing Trust to come up with something. Perhaps you have another idea of how you want to do it, but the clock is ticking and it's important that we get this done as soon as possible.
Penny?
Yeah, just a quick question. It sounds like you've already chosen the lobbyist. Is that true?
Our group has, yeah, we've narrowed it down. We had it narrowed down to 3 firms, all top tier firms in Boston. One of the firms in particular worked on the short-term rental tax with the Massachusetts Lodging Association. They have a fantastic reputation. They also came very highly recommended by, from within both islands and government leadership and folks who were in government leadership and are now in the private sector. So yes, our group has settled on.
So when you're able to share that information, it would be helpful to know who it is.
Sure, would you like me? It's O'Neill and Associates.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And then the communications firm is 7Letter, and they're affiliated with O'Neill and Associates. The 2 groups partner together on all of these efforts.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
So go ahead, Rima.
Yeah, Tucker, if you could just sort of go over what we've pledged from the trust and how far along the Community Foundation is in their efforts to reach 35,000.
Well, so just what the trust has pledged is 35,000 plus expenses, which is half of the cost on the communications and strategy side. So the firm O'Neill and Associates that Laura mentioned, they are the lobbying firm, the direct lobbying firm, and that is entirely with the Vineyard. Completely separately, a different firm, different tax ID number, et cetera, is 7Letter. They are top shelf as far as communications and strategy go. So we would be engaging them. It would be this fund at the Community Foundation and the trust. So the trust has put up or pledged half of the money, so long as the other half comes into the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation itself is not necessarily, like, they are not necessarily rounding up the money. They're providing this vehicle to do this. I'm sure in their encounters with folks that they feel might be supportive of this, they may well mention it. But there are several folks I understand who have, made pledges, which we're very grateful for, and we're encouraging them to get their contribution into the account as soon as possible, because we can't sign the account, we can't sign the engagement without that 35,000 and change being in the account at the Community Foundation.
Solly.
Penny?
Oh, sorry, Brian, through you to Tucker. Do you have a sense of how much has actually been received so far?
I don't know the answer right this second, but I'll check in with them today and email you all where it stands.
And my understanding is that a certain amount was committed verbally by people. Do you know
That's correct.
what that is?
I mean, 35,000 has been verbally committed, but I don't know yet whether that's all. It certainly had not arrived prior to the holiday, and I need to check back in and see what might have come in since then.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? To Laura's point about any additional votes, Penny?
Sorry, I'm microphone hogging. I have another question about the lobbyist. Are they representing any other Nantucket clients that you're aware of right now?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Rima?
So through you, Brian, to Tucker, what can we do to make this happen? I mean, do we ask Margreta to chase down the pledges, or do you chase down the pledges? No. So now we have a day, apparently. So
yeah,
how can we make it go?
It's a coordinated group of folks who are checking in with those that made pledges to make sure that they have been sent in, or if they have not, that they are shortly. I mean, pledges can be handled online, so you can make your payment for pledging through the community foundation's website. So it's not like a check needs to go through the mail.
And what's it called on their website?
The fund is the Nantucket Land Trust Fund.
And anybody can give to this, not just anybody who's given a pledge. So
Absolutely.
anybody could give $5, $500, $2.50. Anybody out there can.
I've received some very thoughtful emails from citizenry who just indicated my wife and I, as an example, are sending in a donation in support of this, which is hugely meaningful, and so anyone can give.
So we can call it Giving Thursday, since we missed it Tuesday.
And Friday and Monday.
Or Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know if we have press on this call, but it would be super helpful if the press would put this out to the community. Our press has been on the Vineyard has been very good about getting the information out. So our community foundation has been receiving significant donations from the community on an ongoing basis for this effort.
That's a great idea. Maybe we can. I don't see any press here today, but maybe we can bump them to take a look at this. I'll come to Brooke as a board member, and then Mr. Cassidy as his hand up. Brooke?
So can I make a motion that we authorize Tucker to draft a press release ASAP in working with Laura and get it out to our media? I'm happy to help with that.
Can you take it a little bit further as far as what the high levels release is going to say?
Okay, so I would move that we authorize Tucker to draft a press release announcing that this fundraising opportunity is available for the purpose of supporting the efforts to get the housing bank bill legislation passed through the State House.
And we'll share a link to the land trust account and share it through Facebook and a variety of other media sources.
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. And I'll
Second from Rima.
discuss.
By roll call, Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan tonight. Thank you for that, Brooke.
Okay.
Yes, Rima?
Through you, Brian, do we have money where we could do an advertisement on Nantucket Current or Daybreak? Because, those are the ones that come out quickly. We wouldn't have to wait for the newspaper and have a link on that as well.
I mean, I'm hopeful that Jason might just pick up the story versus having to put an ad together.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And this, stroll weekend, it would be fantastic to be included something.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, one more time to Brooke and then to Mr. Cassidy.
Should we do a radio ad during stroll weekend? Can we do it?
I think you can probably ask for a public service announcement. I mean, our radio station's been doing public service announcements for us free of charge and featuring interviews with us on local programs. And, I would imagine that this is a huge issue on Nantucket, and it's been unanimously supported at 3 consecutive town meetings. I would think that the radio station would give you something profiled free of charge.
You haven't
That's
met
a
a
really-
radio station.
I haven't.
Sorry, through
sorry.
you, Mr. Chair.
That's a really interesting idea. Does anyone, Brooke, do you have the time to interact with them, to reach out to them?
I do.
I think that in concept, that's worth it. I'd like to come to Mr. Cassidy because his hand's been up patiently. Go ahead, Billy.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I can say with complete authority that $35,000 is on its way. There are several tranches of that are held by third parties, and it's more cumbersome than simply going online and directing it there, but I do know that it's in transit. So that's it.
Right.
I have a question related.
Laura?
I'm
Thank you,
just
Billy.
wondering, Billy, I'm just wondering if you have any idea how long that'll take. I hate to press the issue with the chair, but there's a big difference between us being able to execute these agreements in the next couple of days and executing it 3 weeks from now. And I'm wondering if there's, what we do in the interim, if there's something the trust can do to sort of bridge that gap on a temporary basis, so at least the contract can be executed.
To the best of my knowledge, the longest term that I heard was 2 weeks,
Okay.
and we're a week inside of that. So I am thinking that we may still be a week out, but I'm also thinking that this is, maybe there's more that I'm unaware of, and maybe Tucker has reached out to some friends and so on and so on and so forth. But that portion of things I'm confident in is on its way. Some may have already arrived. I have no idea.
Penny, did you still have a comment?
Yeah, only that if some people are giving through something like a donor advised fund, that takes 2 to 3 weeks. So. That's all.
Brooke?
So if I recall, when we approved and authorized the execution of this contract, we did it contingent on the raising of the additional $35,000. I'm wondering whether we could make a motion today to amend that authorization to state that we authorize that the contract be executed with the understanding that the $35,000 that is needed is on its way and fully committed. I have no doubt we'll raise it. I just think the timing here, the window is closing, and I don't know how the other board members feel about the minimal risk that we would have going ahead and executing without the money in the bank.
Okay, on that thought, I'm going to come to Tucker and then to Penny.
I like the thought. It's not going to work for the community foundation unless we're that we're saying we would backstop any shortfall.
That was going to be my suggestion. I think it's the easy. I think we're getting in the weeds on this unnecessarily. I think we should just backstop it. And I think we're going to be, pleasantly surprised at the amount of support there is. Agreed. We've had far more contributions than we ever anticipated, and I think you're going to see the same thing.
Brooke?
So I would make that motion to amend our earlier authorization to execute the contract with the understanding that should the funds not be forthcoming to the community foundation, that the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust will pay the difference in what is raised versus what the contract amount is required.
Up to what amount?
Up to $35,000 plus expenses.
Any discussion or a second on that?
Second it.
Tucker, is it before we take a vote, Tucker?
Can you just add, if you approve this, that the chair or vice chair is authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the trust?
The friendly amendment, Brooke?
Accepted.
Accepted.
Okay. By roll call, Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Did I miss anybody?
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, moving, continued conversation on that. So media sources, radio, friends and family, giving Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week. All right, let's see, back to my agenda page. Other business, upcoming meetings, December 14th. Does anybody have a conflict or a schedule issue there? Seeing
Is
none,
that-
I guess
That's
that
the
works.
Is that the holiday party?
Are we having a holiday party?
Nobody will commit to it.
I'll send hats to all of your offices. We can wear hats together.
And hot cocoa? I think that's a great idea. All right, so that threw me off now. Let's see, board comments. Any board comments outside of the agenda? Brooke? No, that's a wave off. Okay, no board comments. Item number 9. Does anybody want to make the motion here?
I can do it.
Great, thanks, Penny.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the regular meeting for the purpose of going into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of our public body, not to return to regular meeting.
I should have made a board comment beforehand. Can I go backwards for half a second?
Maybe can we get a second so I don't have to say that again?
Is there a second?
Second,
Yeah, go
Can
ahead.
I? Okay, so I apologize for going out of order, but before we close the meeting, I want to make sure that I make a statement. Under board comments, it was brought to me yesterday, and I want to be careful that as people come to the board and make presentations to either individuals on the trust or to us as members, and then go out into the community, we need to be cautious on how they're representing our positions. It was my understanding that a presentation was made at the planning board by Mr. Williams after having met with us that we were in full support of his proposal for his subdivision at a planning board meeting, reviewing his article. And in reviewing the notes, I think we had a lot of questions for Mr. Williams that were left unanswered. And so while we may not have been while we are in support of the concept that he is looking to create affordable housing, I don't know that he left our meeting with questions answered for us. So I just want to be understanding and cautious that the general public understands that it is with votes that our position as a board signifies support. And conversations and presentations in the meetings are ongoing items. That's my comment as a board member. Penny?
Yeah, just to take it a step further. Representations, I think, have been made about a formal affiliation of and approval. And all we had was a conceptual idea floated, and my recollection of that meeting is we asked him to work with Tucker to flesh out the concept more before it came back to us.
I see. Tucker, why don't you answer that question? It sounded like a question or sort of a statement, but kind of both.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's 100%. And I think even more so, there were some key zoning things that needed to happen before it would even be possible to like have a real plan for it. So, I mean, completely agree that, I mean, as I think you said, Mr. Chair, at the time, like housing that's going to serve exclusively the year-round community, we're always interested to have a conversation about that. But that's a project that, there's a lot of meat that needs to go on the bone. And I would add similarly with the planning board discussion the other day of the potential zoning articles, it was represented in the packet that like these were our ideas, but they're, I think we'd said we're interested in zoning articles that help again with year-round housing, but again, the concepts that were there need a lot of thinking, and some of them may not actually end up mathematically working. So anyway, I'm just backing up what you all are saying.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Dave?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot going on there, and I I doubt that there's going to be a lot of forward progress happening. I mean, it's a huge ask on his end, a huge ask. So, and it sounds like he's planning on developing it, not us. So yeah, there's a lot going on there that I don't think we're even close to recommending it in any way, shape, or form at this point.
I just want to be cautious as representations are made from one board to another as far as what's coming out of ours. In reviewing the minutes for today's approval and looking at them, I recognize that we asked a lot of questions that didn't have any answers, and we're still in that phase. It wasn't even a, I would say, a proposal period. So,
Yeah.
and I don't mean this specifically to Mr. Williams. I think it's kind of an in general statement amongst the community. Our support comes out of votes, not out of presentations.
Yeah.
Brooke.
I think it's very interesting because the conversation in the community is really changing. And I think we're going to see more and more interest in private landholders wanting to participate in the creation of year-round housing. I think that things really have shifted. And I suspect that we're going to have more and more proposals like Mr. Williams coming across our bow where it's exceptions, changes, adding town water, adding town sewer, zoning changes are going to be, and to my mind, there has to be an agreement that this is going to be year-round housing before I would support a zoning change article or a extension of the water article to a property. That's the cart before the horse, because without a legal sort of framework, one could, and I'm not saying that's what's going on here, anyone could represent that they are going to do year-round or affordable housing, get a zoning change that benefits greater density or addition to the water or sewer that allows more density on their property, and then not do anything from an affordable housing standpoint. So I would be more inclined as a policy or a way we do business that we're happy to have a conversation with you, but come up with a definitive proposal that we can codify before we're going to vote to support, these kind of changes.
Thank you, Brooke. Ken's hand got tired. He had a question a long time ago. Ken?
Well, there were two things, Sally. First of all, I know that this was in a public meeting, and so the minutes would reflect the fact that there were a lot of questions that there was no endorsement with respect to his proposal, which is really very, very flawed, but also raises the very issue that the second issue I wanted to raise, and that's the question of education of the community in terms of the role the Affordable Housing Trust Fund can play. I mean, Mr. Williams assumed that we were the piggy bank that he could come to be able to get the money for free to do something, as opposed to understanding what role we have. And the fact is that our initiatives are to help support or provide a way to be able to achieve plans that have an economic plan and make economic sense, as opposed to being the funding source or the entity that in fact does this for a private owner. So there's a level of education that needs to be created in terms of creating an understanding of the role that we can play, and one that we want to play in terms of helping people, but that we are not the be all and end all answer or the piggy bank.
Thank you, Ken. Vicky, did you have a follow-up? You're on mute.
I just wanted to comment on follow up on Brooke's comment, which I think is really correct in assuming that we need to make sure, or you need to make sure that if anyone is coming for consideration for either funding or for working on zoning changes or support for extension of sewer or waivers of water or sewer fees, that really there does need to be some kind of MOU with the town that outlines all of this, that outlines not only what they're so-called proposal is, but actually has a really defined project. And therefore, it's something that, you could enter into some form of an agreement, either for some kind of funding or support, or, planning, or, whatever is necessary from your point of view. But just to come in with a proposal and ask for money isn't going to be sufficient. I mean, it's similar to even like the community preservation funds. I mean, if someone comes and is looking for funding for that, for those, for housing support or something, you need a grant agreement, you need a project, you need, all kinds of specifics. So I think it's really important, as Brooke said, to make sure that you have clearly defined projects that you can consider and vote on, and then have agreements that will outline exactly the roles that they're going to take and that you're going to support.
Penny?
This is it's a bigger discussion, but I have a concern in a general way, and I just want to sort of bring it out now. I don't want to be in a position where we are doing things like spot zoning or not playing within the existing rules. That gives me a lot of anxiety going forward. So I'm just going to lay that out there.
Okay. So we got all that out there. We still have a motion on the table that was made by Penny and seconded by Brooke to adjourn, to move to executive session, not to rejoin the public meeting. Now we closed out those. Thank you for going backwards with me for the board comments. So by roll call, Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Great. Thank you, guys.